Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm Mrs. 4 here. Today we are back for yet another V called Narukami deck profile because we just have so many of them. It's so fun. As a Narukami player, I love it. Today we are covering Eradicator Sweep Command Dragon. Now, this is definitely one of the most unexpected things to come out of V call other than, Cosmo Lord and Airleaf. But okay, I wish to kid no longer. So, Sweep Command is one of the other OG bosses of the Eradicator. So as you guys know, there's more to the archetype than just Vowing Saber, Gauntlet, Descendant. There's other stuff. There's Sweep Command, Tempest Bolt, Ignition, Anger Charge. So we do have quite a number of returning faces that can come back. And for this collection, they chose to give us Sweep Command. Sweep Command is one of the few Narukami bosses that has actually lived through time. I mean that quite certainly. Because Sweep Command, ever since its release in 2012's Seal Dragon Unleashed, it has been pretty meh and niche here and there. In Premium, it has its own niche defensive build, and now that Eradicator is on the rise thanks to the BRO, we now actually have a lot more defensive Narukami players stepping forward. So Sweep Command is the father of this entire strategy, so now you know. So the thing is that now he's in V, he actually has an XL marker, he has updated skill. So let's see how he actually is in both V and Prem. But this is a V deck profile, so we're here to talk about him in V. But it's pretty much the same. Sweep Command is a very one-for-one kind of boss, which really embodies the spirit of the V Eradicators since the beginning of this format. Which is that Eradicators, they tend to throw away shit in order to actually snipe off and take off advantage from the opponent's side. And Sweep Command really goes ham on that. He really focuses on a more control-based playstyle, no matter your format. So it's not like Gauntlet Buster or Vowing Saber where they have more of an offensive edge. This guy really, really wants you to play very much to the heart of control. And it actually does work. Just don't expect to beat stuff like Gurgit because it just doesn't happen. So I'm going to jump straight into it. It's a really simple deck profile. It's not expensive either and it's very effective. So if you're looking for a good V Narukami deck profile to pick up and start, I recommend this if you actually don't mind playing Eradicators. If you do mind, then play Dungaree or Thunderbreak or whatever you wish. Our grade 3 lineup, we are playing 4 copies of Sweep Command, obviously, and then we are also playing 4 copies of Thunderous Beat Dragon. So let's actually break down Sweep Command since he is the ace of this deck. Sweep Command Dragon is 2 skills. When placed on the Vanguard Circle or Rearguard Circle, you pay 1 Soul Blast, choose one of your opponent's front row rearguards, bind it, choose one of the back row rearguards in the same column, and move it forward. So it's effectively like the Descendant skill, his X skill for SB1. It's a bit weaker, but he still has the flexibility of both Vanguard and Rearguard Circle. And it's as long as he's when placed, which means in Premium, he also can use this on the opponent's turn when he's placed. But of course, don't expect to actually do it consistently. But yes, that is something you should be aware of. Second skill is where it gets even more nuttier. It is once per turn, when your opponent's rearguard is bound, you can actually bind the other front row rearguard. And then if you have 4 more damage, Limit Break, Counter Blast 1, Soul Blast 1, gain an imaginary gift, Excel. And if you do, choose an Eradicator from your drop zone and Superior Call. It is just written one word on the entire text. Advantage. That's all it's about. There's no numbers, no critical, no alternate win condition, just advantage. So the second skill, effectively, you can tie it into your first skill, which means you can snipe something, drag something forward, snipe something again for free. It's completely free. It turns 1 snipe into 2 snipes just once per turn. And if you are at 4 more damage, you can pay a Counter Blast and a Soul Blast, and then you also get the additional effect of gaining an Excel. If you choose XL2, means you can also draw, and then you call an Eradicator. So it's effectively a +2 or +1. And having an extra Eradicator, considering this entire deck is Eradicators, it's just good. You have a Soul Blast, so you can effectively Soul Blast cards you ride from. So like Suhail, for example, who's a wonderful target for this deck, by the way. So Counter Blast 1, Soul Blast 1 is a very expensive cost. We've seen it used in Vowing Saber Dragon Reverse, where he uses it to, stand one of your rearguards, but at 4 more damage, he can restand the board if there's a Vowing. But this guy just gains an XL, which is, it may seem weaker. I will leave the Vowing Saber link in the description. It may seem weaker, but in actuality, this has its benefits too. Vowing Saber is very prone to being hit by a defensive and just falling over because Voing Saber's numbers aren't that great either. It has more numbers, but it's not like a grand difference from having no numbers. So Sweep Command is really still not that bad, and it works for what it is. So do not scoff at this guy. He actually does pack quite a good punch in terms of a control-based playstyle. Of course, his weakness is quite written on the card. If there is nothing to bind, then he effectively does nothing, which is it sucks. But that's in the case that you're fighting an opponent who can evade with their board pretty well. But in assuming that they don't, then you can just play a control deck as per normal. Of course, our other grade 3 is Thunderous Beat Dragon. During your turn, if your opponent's side has a bound card, if you bind a card from your opponent's side, he gains 10k power. It's a 22k beat stick on V or R, pretty good, is an Eradicator. Second skill is when he attacks on the Vanguard Circle, counterblast 1, he gets an extra crit. It's a good skill, but if you wrote this card, you effectively lost the game, so I have nothing to say. Moving on to our grade 2s, we play 4 copies of Lightning Whip Eradicator Suhail, 4 copies of Eradicator Spark Rage Dragon, and we also play 4 copies of Fiendish Sword Eradicator Cho. I mean, it's a very standard Eradicator lineup. I don't really want to explain that much, but I will, for the sake of the audience, I will. Suhail is the best card to work in conjunction with Sweep Command. When placed, if your Vanguard is an Eradicator, you can discard 1 card to draw 1 card, choose one opponent's front row, rear guard, and bind it. Okay, that is good. It's a free snipe. It's more free sniping in the deck about free sniping, so it is appreciated. But in addition, it doesn't stop there. During your turn, if this card is on an additional rearguard circle, which means Excel, he gains an additional 5,000 power. So he can be a pretty nice beat stick, 19k or even 24k on XL1 if you're playing that for some reason. So yeah, it is nice to have. He is the Eradicator really built for this deck. So do pick up Suhail for sure. The rest, honestly, is more of a personal choice, but I think this is pretty optimal. Let me explain. Fiendish Sword Eradicator Cho is by far someone you've definitely seen if you are anything familiar with Narukami. When placed on the Vanguard Rearguard Circle, you counterblast 1, choose one of your opponent's column, bind the front row rearguard in it, choose the circle that the back row is sitting in, you can move it forward. That is a very specific wording because it bypasses resist, which means that you're playing a deck all about spot removal, right? So what happens when the guys can't be spot removed? Then you force them to be spot removed. Cho is here for exactly that reason. Counterblast 1 is a resource you can pay. This is not like Voing Saber where you literally have to pay like Counterblast 2 per turn to literally breathe oxygen. No, this deck actually has space for you to use Counterblast cost, which you should with Cho. His second skill is that when your Vanguard attacks, if there are no front row units in your opponent's board, you can Counterblast 1 and stand this unit. Again, it's a nice way to multi-attack, unlike Saber where you have the option at the end of the game to Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1 and restand the board. Cho still gives Sweep Command something that he doesn't have, which is a multi-attacker. So even though he has no numbers, you can still get triggers and whatnot. You can still help Cho be effective, especially when you're grinding the games out of your opponent. An extra attack can save your life. Last but certainly not the least, it is our Spark Rage Dragon. Spark Rage Dragon is your ideal right target for the Eradicator archetype. So when he's placed on a Vanguard Circle, he gains 5,000 power. Then you can look at the top 5 cards in your deck and an Eradicator from among them to your hand, discard a card. So it's a nice search, and he becomes a 14k beater for the center column. I mean, come on, it's free. Second skill is when his attack hits Soul Blast 1, you draw a card. Wow, on VRR, that's impressive. Turn 2, he's very threatening. You have to guard that. If not, your opponent gains. If not, then you can still just have him as a on attack draw or on hit draw. So yeah, it's a good card. It's nice to have. Honestly, Eradicators don't have really much to play in terms of the grade 2 lineup. You can play Zuitan if you wish. You can play Plasma Catapult if you really wanted Berserk Dragon. You could play Spark Rain even. So it's really your choice. So do keep that in mind. Moving on to the grade 1s. We play 2 copies of Rising Phoenix, 4 copies of Mighty Bolt Dragoon, 4 copies of Isolation Eradicator Nozuku, and 4 copies of Demolition Dragon. Yeah, I mean, this list also really builds itself. I don't really need to explain very much. Mighty Bolt is your grade 3 searcher. You need Sweep Command, so it's as simple as that. You're gonna play it, and it's a nice 13k booster or attacker. Rising Phoenix is here because, like I said, Eradicators are very one-to-one, so anything to do with advantage, you like that. When your opponent's rear guard is bound, you can superior call this card to a rear guard circle from the drop zone and it gains 3000 power. Alright, it's a good body, I like it. You're only playing 2 because your slots are for the rest of the Eradicators, such as Demolition Dragon, a true ace, rehired, and really good. When his attack hits or the boosted attack hits, you can draw a card. Then, if you wish, you can move him into the soul, choose one of your opponent's cards from the drop zone and bind it. So it's an on-hit or on-boost draw, or on-hit or on-boosted attack hit draw. Yeah, it's a great advantage. Go for it. Of course, our archetype searcher is Nuzuku. Nuzuku, when placed on a Vanguard rear guard circle, look at the top 5 cards of your deck, add an Eradicator from among them into your hand. If you search, discard 1. Our grade zeros, we play 4 copies of Seobo, we play 6 crits, we play 6 draw, and we play our starter. Yeah, this is also very, very simple. It looks a lot like Vowing Saber's deck profile, and very frankly, yes, for a lot of similar reasons. Both Vowing Saber and Sweep Command unlock their potential at 4 more damage, so you definitely want to be playing the base heal. It's an Eradicator to boot, so you sincerely have no excuse to say, oh, but it's bad. It's not that bad. Now, we also play 6 draw and 6 crit, just like Vowing Saber, because this is a piece relying deck. You want to see your stuff come out. You need to find them. And like I said, it's a very 1-for-1 deck, so draws is appreciated. 6 crit just to help you keep up the advantage. Oh, and of course we're playing the Eradicator starter because this is an Eradicator deck. Alright, that actually wraps up Sweep Command Dragon. I don't know what to actually say for this deck. It's really quite simple. Like I said, it's really just about resources, but it works. It works to a degree that you honestly won't expect for a format like V in 2022. We are having one of the worst ban lists of all time, possibly, for V series, but yet we are still getting such wonderful decks. I wish I could say this would do very well. I wish, but it won't. But that's of no fault to this deck. So really, I still recommend people to pick up this deck and try it. Definitely for A, Narukami beginners, or B, people who want to try more control-based strategies. This is definitely one for you. It does have the flaw of, needing your opponent to have a board, but very frankly, which Narukami deck has not. Vanquisher needs to be able to poke stuff from each other's hands, but at that point, then you might as well just play Gurgit or something, because, XL meta, right? So, yeah, but in Premium though, I say this is also pretty nice. It is a bit harder to play compared to your standard Vowing Sword, Vowing Saber Premium. It is a bit harder, but very frankly, it all adds up to about the same. You have a defensive option, you have an offensive option, so yeah, really it is nice to have alternate options even within your own archetypes. It's not like, say, Liberators or, I don't know, Seal Dragons, where you only have this and that's all you have. Narukami's Eradicators is one of the founding archetypes of this game, and it's good that we have quality options unlike Beast Deities. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you all next time. We are still in the middle of V-Call segments, so as usual, if you want to see more V decks, leave it in the comment section below and we will cover it if we have the money. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.